Hi, guys. Welcome back to another edition of Chats from the Blog Cabin. I am joined by a very special guest, Tamara, as in see ya, Tamara. and
That's right.
she is with that blog, also Lights Camera Family. So, Tamara, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on here. I'm so excited to always watch your chats from the blog cabin. So I am thrilled to be a guest. Well, my name is Tamara, and I am an actor and a mom and a stepmom and a writer and a blogger. So I freelance write, and I also have my own blog, Lights Camera Family, where I talk about co-parenting, step-parenting, sort of our adventures as a blended family. And I also cover some travel and some local news.
Yeah, you're one of the people that a couple of years ago you submitted your photo for my positive women.
I remember that.
March.
Yes, I mean, that was great. And I submitted this crazy picture that I never thought would ever see the light of day. But I sort of rose to the challenge. And yeah, I think that's out there on the internet somewhere.
Yep, it's definitely out there on the internet for sure now. So let's talk about blended families. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
you have how many of your own and how many of your husbands?
So I have 3 biological children, and I have one, what I like to refer to as bonus daughter.
Oh, I love that, bonus daughter. So how do you handle the challenges? Because obviously co-parenting cannot always be easy, especially when you have different schools and things like that.
I mean, absolutely, Melissa. Co-parenting can be a real challenge, and especially right after divorce. Divorce is pretty tragic all around for everybody involved. And so I've always viewed co-parenting as it being my job to sort of minimize the trauma to the kids. So it wasn't always easy. There are a lot of bad feelings after many divorces. There certainly were in my case. And it's been a bumpy road, but I really feel like my ex-husband and I have gotten to a great place where co-parenting is pretty seamless and has had a really positive effect on the kids.
Now, how did you introduce your kids to your husband's your bonus daughter? How did you introduce them?
So it's funny because we didn't really plan on an actual introduction. As I've mentioned, I'm an actor and my husband is an actor as well. And we happened to be on a film set where our kids were doing a commercial, and his daughter was in the commercial as well. And they sort of met on the set. So when they first met, they sort of had this really interesting instant connection. And so there was never the worry for us, are the kids going to get along? Because we saw that they were getting along pretty perfectly and seamlessly without us even trying.
That's pretty cool. Did they know?
Yeah.
They knew that was the daughter and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
No. They had no idea, and they became fast friends. And, the goal for us was never to, we knew that if we were to have a relationship, one of the most important things would be for the kids to get along. If that piece wasn't going to work, we were not going to work. And we sort of always knew that. So we found moments to connect, all the kids together, whether it was with an activity or taking a walk or going to the playground, and really didn't put any pressure on them getting along. And we certainly didn't put any pressure on our relationship. When it came to, how it was going to be blended, we kind of just let things unfold naturally. And we were really lucky. And I like to say we're one of the lucky ones because not everyone has that same experience. The kids got along great from day one.
Now, how soon into the relationship with your husband did you introduce the kids? Because I know that's a lot of parents worry about that a lot.
So it happened, like I said, being unplanned because they all happened to be in the same place at the same time. So it was really soon after we started dating. We probably, if we had any control over it, we probably would have waited a bit. But my husband and I, were very solid in our feelings for each other, and it worked out okay.
Did you know when you were introducing them that they were going to be like brothers and sisters, or were you not in that part of your relationship yet?
Say that first part again.
When you were introducing them, did you know
Mhm.
that you were definitely going to be married, or were you not that far into your relationship?
So we were not that far into the relationship. Like I said, one of the main pieces was going to be, will this blended family work? We're in the theater and we're both very dramatic and we can't have any other drama. So if there was going to be any drama with the kids, that would have, I think, significantly impacted our relationship. I think for me, it was always a matter of putting the children first. Were they happy? Were they okay? Were they emotionally healthy? Were they prepared to welcome someone new into the family? How did they feel about that? Everything I did at that time was really ensuring that they were first priority for me.
Now, how do you handle, like, I know you say you have three
Hmm.
biological and one bonus daughter. How do you
Hmm.
handle the custody? Are they normally together at the same time, or is there off weeks, or?
So we're very lucky, and everybody again has different custody situations. I'm very lucky because my ex and I have a very flexible schedule. And what that means is, we never wanted to go to court. There was never a need for us to go to court. We knew from the moment that we had separated that we never wanted a judge, if we could help it, to be in control of our time with our children. So we worked out a basic custodial schedule, which was every other weekend and Mondays and Tuesdays. So, for example, my ex would get them Monday, Tuesday. I would get them Wednesday, Thursday, and then we would swap out every other weekend. Um, and so when my husband got his custodial schedule, we were just very easily able to be flexible and just join that same schedule. So all the kids are on the same schedule.
Well, that's good.
Yes. So my ex and I continue to have a lot of flexibility, which I think is really important. Sometimes I hear about moms post divorce complaining about the custodial arrangement, and this is my day and this is my time, and he's asking for them on my day. And I have a very different kind of relationship with my ex-husband. So for example, if my custody is on Wednesday, and it's my day with the kids, but he knows of this great fair happening an hour away and wants to take them to it, I will very gladly say, go ahead and take the kids. I'll make up that day some other time, no worries. And what's worked out beautifully, and one of the other issues that I hear a lot of blended families have, is sort of people not recognizing that the kids post divorce may have another family that they're very attached to, very close to, care very deeply about. So my ex-husband is wonderful in terms of, if my stepdaughter is with us on that particular day and he wants to take the kids out for an ice cream or paddleboarding or to go see a movie, he will take all four children.
Oh, that
And
is
that was
awesome.
it's really awesome because the first time that happened, it really helped validate to all the children that they are family. um, Lots of times people will, say, if it's not biological, if they're not biological, you can't possibly love them the same. And, my point of view is that when you make any sort of deep commitment to a child or to your family, that's what love is. That's what family is. We don't consider each other, I say bonus because step is just, gosh, there's so many negative connotations to that. but we're just family. It was interesting because in the beginning of our blended family situation, the kids would be sort of hesitant to call us step parents in public,
Mhm.
which was really interesting. So, for example, I'd go to ballet class and someone would say, "Oh my gosh, your daughter looks just like you." And I remember she would look at me, this is my bonus daughter, to see what my reaction would be, because obviously she's not my biological child. And I would just say, "Thank you." Just thank you. If there was no need to explain, I wouldn't, because the kids didn't want that. They didn't want to be perceived differently. Um, and as far as, as the years have progressed and we've bonded even more and we're even closer, they feel much more free to talk about their two homes, because they have a lot of other friends that have that same situation. There are a lot of blended families out there now.
Yeah, there are so many. Now, what tips would you give? Because obviously you're kind of being
Mhm.
a success on that. What kind of tips would you give people that are blending their families?
Well, I mean, I can only speak for my particular situation, so I'll tell you from my personal sort of view. Some of the things that I did to establish a great relationship with my bonus daughter is to really let her take the lead. There was never a feeling for me because I'm already a biological mom to three. There was never really a need for me to feel like I'm her mom, if that makes any sense. Stepmoms get sort of this really bad rap for wanting to kind of push the bio mom out of the way and take over that mothering role. I can assure you, 99% of stepmoms don't want that at all. And part of the reason is we really don't get a lot of credit. It's funny when my husband says I'm a stepfather. He gets accolades and, oh, how great, and you can love other children that aren't your own, and you kind of stepped up to the plate. And I don't get that same reaction when I say I'm a stepmom. It's sort of viewed very differently. We're viewed as, oh, we want to take over the mom role or overstep boundaries. And like I said, it's really not the case. But what I did to sort of ensure that I would have a good relationship with her is as I said, I let her take the lead. When she wanted to sit and talk with me or snuggle, that's when I sat and talked with her and snuggled. One of the things that was really important in our case, because I did already have three children, I had, my own rules at the house, our own lifestyle. So it was probably most difficult for my bonus daughter coming into a family that's already set up with three siblings who have a specific bond, and who know me really, really well. The kids just had to adjust to one extra person. She had to adjust to four different people. So letting her take the lead, giving her sort of the same rules, including her in everything that we did with the other kids. I have to say that when you're a mom to more than one child, it's very easy to figure out who needs more of your attention at any specific time. So, for example, if my son had a really bad day at work, or a stressful day at school, he might be the one that I pull aside in the evening to watch a favorite movie. And that's something that you kind of do when you're a mom of lots of kids. And in the beginning, my bonus daughter is the one that got lots of the attention. She got lots of extra sort of time with her dad and time with me, time with the both of us, so that she could kind of adjust to what it was like living in a whole new family.
Now, how are you handling COVID with the custody arrangements? I can imagine that's a nightmare,
Well,
kind of.
it has been surprisingly not super stressful because all three families are equally as concerned about the pandemic. everyone equally is using masks and social distancing and not really seeing people who aren't doing those same things. So we've kind of been our own little unit. So custody has remained the same. There haven't really been any changes. As far as dealing with COVID, it kind of hit us out of nowhere. And suddenly there were 6 of us in the home the entire time on Wi-Fi, schooling, working, trying to get work done. My blog suffered terribly just because I had my hands just a little bit full. Mm-hmm. And right now we're having discussions about what we're going to do moving forward. Again, I'm very lucky because, I respect my ex enough to value his input. So those discussions about, are we going to continue doing virtual? Are we going to let them go back to school? We have 4 kids and 3 different schools, and everybody is doing something a little bit different. So we have to sort of manage that and figure out what's going to really be the best thing for our family. So those are discussions that we're having with the bio parents.
Yeah, I know having my girls, they're at 3 different schools, 3 different ages at one time. Yeah, if I can imagine throwing more parents into the mix, I just can't even imagine that chaos.
It can be absolute chaos. And I feel like I'm always in the carpool lane. And there's always something that I'm forgetting to do, and some assignment, something I haven't signed off on. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge when school is in session. When it's virtual, it has its own level of complicatedness.
Have there been fights ever who gets on the Wi-Fi or somebody got Wi-Fi because you're taking up too much bandwidth, especially if you're doing virtual school?
Yeah, so there's a lot of scheduling at the house. Who needs to be on a Zoom at 10? Dad's got to teach a class. He's a professor of theater, so he's got to teach a class at 10. Who else has a Zoom? Everybody else off the internet. So there's lots of sort of chaos, and we worked out kind of a little schedule. We just sit down, we figure out who's gonna have to be Zooming when, and of course there's a Wi-Fi booster that helps.
So you definitely got to be the schedule queen then, I guess.
Yes. And I'm very lucky and fortunate that I really always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. It's sort of, I've wanted that since I was a little girl. My mom worked all the time and I really missed her. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be raised by my very loving grandmother who recently passed away at 94 years old. I always knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and I was blessed enough, fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I kind of thrive in this. I know there are moms out there who are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for kids to go back to school. I just love having them home. I'm trying all kinds of new recipes. We're, reading books aloud. I'm one of those complete dork moms who is going to be sad when they go back to school.
I know we were talking before we came on about how you were one of these moms that cry when the kids go back to school. Most moms are like, hey, cartwheeling in the pathways.
No, and I've got my oldest is starting his senior year, and my heart is just breaking for him because he's already, he missed junior prom in the spring. I'm so fearful that he's going to be missing out on all these, opportunities. And this year has been sort of, in my mind, it's sort of a really long goodbye because he heads off to college next year. And I'm trying to just enjoy as much time as possible, as many hugs as he'll allow me to have, and cooking his favorite meal so that I feel like he'll miss me at least a little bit and want to come at some point on the weekends. So I'm constantly like, now I want to teach you how to do your own laundry, but how about I do your whole laundry until you go to college? So he's got a reason to come back.
Yeah. But then he's probably, when he comes back, Mom, I didn't have time to do my laundry, or I ran out of clothes. Can you do it for me?
and that'll be okay. That'll be okay. I'm really interested because there are 4 kids with very specific bonds between them. I'm really curious to know what's going to happen with our family dynamic once he goes. It'll be interesting. I know, especially the youngest is going to miss him like crazy.
Now, as far as the age of your kids, where does the bonus daughter fall in? Was she the young? Is she the youngest, or does she fall in between the?
So I feel like it was meant to be. So my oldest just turned 17. My second oldest is 15. My bonus daughter is 13, and my youngest is 10. So it
Yeah.
was sort of perfect. And I think that has, I think that's one of the big reasons that they bonded so well. And it was pretty seamless. She bonded with my 15-year-old very early on, and they're best friends. They share a room together. You'll always hear them like coming up with, shenanigans. So yeah, the age really worked out in our favor.
Well, I will say for your son, I mourn for him too for his senior year because Gracie, my youngest, is actually her senior year this past year, and she chose not
Mhm.
to even go through graduation because her sisters weren't
Oh,
here. So I
oh, that's
mourn with you
so
on that.
sad.
Hopefully, it'll clear up so he'll at least have his graduation, so you can
Yes.
see him walk across the stage.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I've been waiting for that day for a long time. So fingers crossed that he gets to experience that for sure.
I mean, honestly, with the first one, you definitely want to see it. The third one, I kind of left it up to her. So again, you're adult enough because she's 18. She just 18. I'm like, you decide what you want to do, and I'll do whatever you want me to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And for the oldest one, I think we're thinking the same thing. We're just going to kind of let him decide what he wants to do.
And then plus the oldest one is the first one that they walk across the stage. So it's your first baby graduating. So it's like you
I know.
made it as a parent, but it's like, yes, finally, even though you don't want them to leave, but you're so proud of that moment.
And I can't wait. I mean, I'm so proud of all of them for different reasons right now. And I just can't, I treasure all those moments. I'm like, the photo queen. I take like a zillion pictures and annoy the heck out of them. They're always like, oh my gosh, mama, please, enough with the photos. So yeah, I can see I'm going to be a sobbing mess, taking loads of pictures and being super proud and happy.
Okay, we'll be right back. I have a word from our sponsor.
Hey y'all, welcome to Summer Sunflower Fields at Odom Farming Company. We'd love for you to come visit with us. We're open Tuesday through Thursday and Sunday from 4 to 8 and Friday and Saturday from 4 to 9. $5 admission includes a visit with the pasture gang, the playground, the beautiful fields, and 3 flowers to carry home. So come see us at 1426 Claridge Nursery Road, Goldsboro. Check out our website, odomfarmingcompany.com, or follow us on social media. We sure hope to see you soon.
One of my favorite places ever to go to.
Awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about the incident at New York Bagel in Delhi.
Yeah, so it's interesting because there's so much going on now with, in the world besides the pandemic. I mean, as you know, I know you've done a series on Black Lives Matter and people of color. And I was born into a multicultural home. And what that meant is my parents are from Argentina. My grandmother was from Ukraine. And so I grew up speaking Spanish as my first language, Ukrainian as my second, and English as my third. And I lived in New Jersey and New York, where life was very multicultural. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, and lived in a very ethnic neighborhood, was constantly surrounded by different ethnicities and different cultures, different races. And so even though I went to a private Ukrainian Catholic school there, I was still exposed to so much culture and diversity. And, I would hear my parents talking about that time when they received a phone call from, a bank or some sort of solicitor, and the solicitor would make comments to them about not being able to understand them, because obviously they have an accent. They came here from Argentina when mom was pregnant, and I was born here. So I always heard the stories, but I never was impacted. Obviously I don't have an accent. I don't look traditionally Hispanic or Latina. I think I'd take more after the European side of my family. And because I was raised in sort of that multicultural, delicious, beautiful environment up north, when I first moved to Cary, probably within the first 2 weeks that I was here, I had found this great bagel place. And for those of you that know, it's New York Bagel in Delhi, right across from Waverly Place, next to Harris Teeter. And I was so happy to have found a great place that reminded me about New York, or of New York. And I spoke Spanish to my kids at home. That was super important to me. My ex-husband spoke Ukrainian to them. He happened to be Ukrainian. So we were passing that on to our children. And one of the things that was really important to me is speaking Spanish to them out in public. I didn't want it to be something that was hidden in the home. I didn't want them to be embarrassed about the fact that they spoke Spanish or came from, a family that spoke something other than English. So I always made a point of speaking to them in Spanish out in public, or Ukrainian. And I was at the deli place, the bagel place, and I put my kids at the table. They were younger. And in Spanish, I said to them, ahora vuelvo, les voy a ir a agarrar leche, mamá se va a agarrar un café, which is basically, stay right here. I'm going to go get some milk and a coffee for me. And there was an older gentleman who was in the restaurant. And if you know anything about this place, it's very small and it was very crowded on the weekend. And he very abruptly stood up and very loudly said something to the effect, and I can't say exactly what he said, but I'll sort of paraphrase. These darn people who come here to America and don't learn the language and don't have, the decency to not speak a language that doesn't belong here. And he left the restaurant. And I suddenly had all these eyes on me, of course. Now, no one said anything to me, but certainly everybody looked over to me because he was that loud and that sort of obnoxious. And I remember my mouth sort of dropped open and I had no words. I didn't even know what to say or how to explain that to my kids who spoke English as well. And it wasn't until he walked out the door that I had a million things to say. And I said them to the group that was left behind in the restaurant, at the bagel place. But I just remember thinking how sad it was that someone would feel that way. How sad it was that, in the town that I've chosen to be my home, I was made to feel that unwelcome in just, a minute's time. How sad it was that somebody couldn't think that person is so educated. They must know more than one language. How wonderful, which is, if you go to Europe, everyone sort of is raised with 2, 3 more languages, and it's not something that's as common here. And it was that day that I sort of vowed to not only continue speaking Spanish in public, but speaking to any Hispanic people that I came across to in their language, and take advantage of the fact that I don't look Latina, but I can certainly spot a fellow Hispanic and make them feel at home and welcome. It wasn't the only experience I had. I've seen discrimination firsthand. I've seen, I remember being in an urgent care and a Hispanic man trying to ask the receptionist to please use the phone. And just the way that receptionist was looking at him and telling him, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry, I don't understand. And me needing to step in to translate for him when he just was trying to, I think he was trying to call a cab to take him home. This is before Uber. So I've come across a few of those situations, and, I sort of put a bee in my bonnet to continue educating my children, continue, making sure that they remain really open-minded, really loving to each other, to others. I'm really, really proud of the fact that I belong to a church that does anti-racism training. And the kids all participated in that training back in January, February. So very timely. And they all wrote up, ways that they were going to help with, be against microaggressions and support the Black community and support other cultures and races. And I think it's super important. I think it's our responsibility as moms to ensure that, we're putting citizens out there into the world that are just a little bit better citizens than we are. I want them to be proud of their world and the world that they're growing up in.
Yeah, and I applaud you for continuing the language with your children. That's one thing I wish my girls were like would say, "Mom, I wish Dad would have taught us Spanish when we were younger because he's
Mhm,
Hispanic, he's from Mexico," and they're like,
mhm.
"We understand it, we don't understand it enough to speak it," and it's kind of like, ugh. And they actually had in California, they went to a taco stand and people were laughing at them because of their Spanish that they know, and they were like,
Oh, wow.
"There's discrimination with them." And they're like,
Right.
"What do you mean? We're Hispanic too," but it's like they're not Hispanic enough for their Hispanic friends, and they're not white enough for their white friends, so they're kind of caught in the middle there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I hear that a lot. A lot of Hispanics come to this country and are so proud to be here. My dad could not wait to become a US citizen. Neither could my mom. I mean, they cried tears of joy, as did my grandmother. They all became US citizens. But a lot of Hispanics come to this country and, have that same feeling. They love the United States and they want their children to sort of, integrate into America. And so they insist that their children speak English and not remain in kind of the old world that they lived in. So I understand. It was something that was always very important to me. And I think we were successful because there were two parents in the household who felt the same way. We were completely on the same page. My ex-husband did not know a word of Spanish.
So
So that was really, really brave of him to say, yeah, that's what I want as well. I want our kids to know Spanish first. I'll speak to them in Ukrainian. And it's funny how easy it was when they were little. It's harder now, to be honest, to get them to speak in the other languages just because, they go to school all day in English. They're away from me. They play outside with their English speaking friends. All their activities are English based, movies, everything else. It was much easier when they were little.
I know, but I've seen you at blogger events with I think your daughter and your son
Hmm.
both, and you spoke
Hmm.
Spanish to them while you were out there, and I was like, "Oh, look at her go!"
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, it's funny how, that experience that I had in Cary really affected me. And the kids. And I tell that story to them all the time so that they remember that next time they're in a situation like that.
Okay, what about your bonus daughter? Does she speak any? Or is she learning, or did she already come in speaking?
It's very funny. If you hear her speak Spanish, she has a better accent than some of the other kids do. She's got this really uncanny ability to mimic accents. She takes Spanish in school. She thinks it's funny that, if I get very riled up, I'll speak Spanish, but she's slowly learning and she's learning a lot from my parents as well.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I love how you're
Mhm.
keeping the culture alive because a lot of people when they come and
Mhm.
they marry an American or they marry someone from another culture, they
Mhm.
don't necessarily keep the culture that they grew up in alive. So how are you doing that besides just speaking Spanish and Ukrainian to your kids?
Well, a lot of it has to do with extended family. So, doing things like, well, we go to multicultural festivals a lot. That's important. We do it with the cooking. My mom makes the best empanadas.
Mhm.
She makes these traditional dishes. My grandmother would make, holubchi, which are stuffed cabbage, and pierogis in English. And so, a lot of it has to do with the food. A lot of it has to do with the music. I play Spanish music, and you'll hear us sort of duetting sometimes, incorporating books when we can, and making sure that they're taking Spanish at school as well.
That is so cool. Now let's talk about the acting bug. How did you get
Mhm.
on the acting bug? How did you get bit by it?
I don't know. I don't know how I got bit by it. I'm probably I don't know, but since I was like yay high, I've always wanted to be a performer. It was just something I did. There was a family party and there was me singing. I can't sing, but there was me singing with like a fake microphone in my hand. So it was always something I wanted to do. And then I think really in about second grade, I was cast at school in like the school play, which is the City Mouse and the Country Mouse. And I played the City Mouse. And once that applause came, I mean, I was like sold. I'm an introvert, believe it or not. I tend to be very shy and nervous around people lots of times, but I never felt that on stage. And so as I continued, I was always sort of the one chosen to recite the poetry in a class concert or do the little plays. I went off to college. I knew that I wanted to major in theater. And I did that and did lots of theater in college. And after that, decided to pursue it professionally for a little while until I realized, you know what, I could probably do this as a hobby and part-time professionally and like own a car and not have to work as a hostess in a restaurant. So I sort of abandoned ship, which was devastating to my parents. They really, really, it's all I ever talked about, really. But then after I got married, I was able to do more plays and get involved with agents. And so I've done lots of commercials and industrials. I do voiceover work. So if you'll call, I don't know, Blue Cross or Blue Shield and you choose a Spanish option, that might be my voice on the other end. Presione número dos. So I've used my language to my advantage too, in that part of my career. My husband's also an actor, so we've really bonded over that, and he's done things, and I've done some film, I've done a TV series, and he has as well. So we do it part-time when you get the job. It's not a gig that you can count on for sure. Not a day job here, but there's lots of work available. You'd be surprised. Wilmington has sort of, it used to be a good spot to get work. Now it's really Atlanta. So lots of our auditions are in Atlanta.
So how often do you go to Atlanta then?
Not very often. Certainly not these days. So because the industry has changed a lot, you used to have to go in person in order to see the casting director, and now it's all virtual. So just like this, you'll do your audition, you'll submit it, and if you get called back for a callback, it's called a callback if they want to see you again. That's when you might have to make the trip to the actual in-person audition.
That is, that's so cool. Never would think about being cast virtually. That is like,
yeah, and lots of parts get cast virtually. Lots. I did a part on Drop Dead Diva. Never saw a casting director. It was all virtual.
You didn't drop. Now, what episode were you on? Because I'm gonna have to go back and watch that because I love that show.
Oh, I don't know. You'd have to Google it. But I played an attorney who was prosecuting the lead actress in that series. So I think my hair was a bit shorter. I don't know what episode number it is, but I'll text you later.
Okay, because I want to go back and see that because I'm like,
yeah,
I love that show. I hate that it's off now, but I love the fact that the lead on the show is actually on Sweet Magnolias.
Sweet Magnolias. Yeah. Yes. I cannot wait to start that series. That's on my actual Netflix list.
Yeah. I would wait till the second season comes out because that first one, the cliffhanger, yeah. Just wait.
Is good. And she's lovely. She was very lovely.
So what other things have you done besides
I was actually in a movie with Carrie Elwes. You'll know him from like Princess Bride, and he was a wonderful person to work with. I've worked with Adam Arkin, and I worked behind the scenes on a show called Good Behavior that Michelle Dockery starred in. And I used my Spanish skills and my acting skills for that job. I actually worked in Wilmington for 2 seasons, being the translator for the script. In the series, the lead character is from Argentina. And so sort of the stars aligned, and they had wanted someone on set who knew a little bit about acting and spoke Argentinian Spanish. So I was sort of a perfect fit. It kind of fell right into my lap. And I loved doing that. I did some dialect coaching for the guest stars there who needed to speak Spanish. I wrote all the subtitles on the show and translated the script from English to Spanish when it was the actor's time to speak in Spanish. That was probably like hands down one of my favorite gigs I've had to date.
Wow. So how long ago was that?
Oh gosh, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago,
Okay.
about. Yeah.
Well, not that far, not that long ago. I know didn't
No.
you direct a play, a local play in Raleigh?
I did. I just directed Boston Marriage, which is a David Mamet play, which was a great success. I worked with lovely students from Meredith College. And yeah, that was the last. I've only directed two things. It might be something I might want to do again in the future. It sort of encompasses, everything that I love, working with actors who are like the best people, using my creativity to make a story come alive, and being part of this amazing creative team, between a set designer, lighting designer, sound designer, the stage managers, the actors. I feel most at home in a dark theater, I like to say. That's the absolute truth. So if I could do a show all the time, and open up my schedule all the time, I totally would.
Now, how do you balance work life with family life? Because you said you really love being a stay-at-home mom.
So that's why I said, when I can. My husband and I take turns. So sometimes he'll do a show. I'll be staying at home. And then other times I'll do a show and he'll sort of take on more of the, stay at home responsibilities. He's lucky too. He's a professor. He's got a bit more of a flexible schedule. He's got summers mostly off, not completely, certainly not during COVID, because his whole summer has been spent kind of planning what the fall is going to look like at school. But we have that luxury.
That's so cool. Is there anything that you have coming up in the works?
Not theater wise. I'm looking at a couple projects. I've been contacted about a couple different projects, so I can't say anything about them just yet. Auditions for TV and film were sort of halted because of COVID. Nobody was working. But that is starting to pick up again. So in the next few weeks, I anticipate that there'll be lots more opportunity for actors.
A lot more virtual casting, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you were acting, have you ever worked with the same people over besides the series, like on a different project?
With the same actors?
Or directors or producers?
No, I mean, I've been really lucky. I feel like I've been super lucky because I've been able to work with different people. One of my favorite places in town is Burning Coal Theater Company. I love working with them. And so a lot of times I'll get the opportunity to work with actors that I've worked with before, which is always wonderful because, part of acting is feeling close relationships on stage and not feeling like you're faking it, if that makes sense. So when you know somebody, there's already sort of that comfort level. You've worked with them before, you know what they're like on stage, and it's just fun to get together and play.
I was just wondering, like, maybe if you're up for a role and it's maybe the same director or producer or somebody that worked with before, maybe you might have an in to get the role that way.
Yeah, I mean, acting is just like pretty much any other profession these days. It's sometimes who you know, for sure, who you have a connection with. I don't know if you've heard of 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, which is that funny game, to find out how many steps away you are from Kevin Bacon. And there's probably a quiz online you can do to see. And you can always sort of know somebody who worked with somebody else that you know. And that's sort of a life lesson that I didn't learn until maybe my early 20s. And it's something that I tell the kids: you never burn a bridge. Don't ever burn a bridge. You really have no idea how that person who you're choosing to, close off from your life could have affected your life in a positive way down the road.
That's such great things to live by, motto for everybody.
Totally.
So before we wrap up, tell me one unusual thing about yourself.
Oh gosh, trick question. One unusual thing about myself. Gosh. Well, I mean, the three language thing, if I have to confess something that I'm really trying to work on, it's my level of anxiety is really strong. The kids sort of really know me as the worrier. You know, I worry they're going to choke. I worry they're going to fall down the stairs if they're fooling around. I worry, worry, worry. So I'm trying to kind of work on that. I'm not sure how unusual that is for a mom of four. Maybe all moms of four are like this, but I'm kind of working on being a little bit more chill and a little bit more laid back.
Okay, and so last minute advice for those that are going into the blended family mode or step.
Mm-hmm.
What's your last tidbit of advice there?
So just be patient. Don't push it. Don't push it. You can't force it. Remember, the kids have gone through trauma. Be patient. Let them take the lead. Let them sort of guide where your relationship goes. And I think if you do that, you can't really go wrong.
Okay, and tell everybody where they can find you.
So I'm at lightscamerafamily.com. And oh, you know, I'm on TikTok. Are you on TikTok, Melissa?
No, I'm not on TikTok.
So listen, I was like anti-TikTok until the pandemic hit. And COVID equals moms on TikTok. It's a hilarious sort of social avenue. So you can find me there at Lights Camera Family or on Instagram, Lights Camera Family.
And on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm facebook.com/camera family.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Melissa. This has been great. I'm so jealous of your blog cabin, and I'm like working up plans to build one of my own soon, I hope.
Well, anytime you're in the Goldsboro area, come on down. You're more
yes.
Come check it out and hang out with me.
Totally. Thank you so much, Melissa.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.